Mrs. Hagen back with the Inference strategy. Today's lesson is going to focus on big picture questions. We're going to be discussing the keywords associated with big picture questions, and we're also going to be applying the inference strategy to a passage in order to identify and answer both factual and big picture questions. But before we jump in, I want to go ahead and pull up your guided notes. They say inference strategy guided notes number 2. Same notes that you have been using. Let's see. Only your notes, they look just like this, only your notes are filled in this factual question section. We're only going to be working in the section today that says big picture questions. You only have 2 short bullets to fill in. However, this right here where it says big picture question keywords, this part is going to be essential. You definitely need to know these keywords in order to complete your independent practice, so please make sure you're filling in your guided notes. Whether you like to use the split screen or whether you like to pause and fill in your notes and come back, whatever works for you, just please make sure you're getting those guided notes. Last thing I'll say about guided notes, please make sure you're using them as a resource. So during your independent practice, please be referencing your guided notes so you can differentiate between factual and big picture questions. Okay. So some really quick review before we get started. Hopefully the infer mnemonic is becoming very familiar to you. I interact with the passage and the questions. N, note what you know. F, find the clues. E, explore supporting details. And R, return to the questions. Now you know that we have possible factual question keywords. And we do say possible because it's not always going to be a factual question if it has a who, what, where, when, why, or how. But usually we know those WH questions are associated with factual questions. One thing we have to be careful of is to make sure that the question is asking us something that is right there in the passage. Make sure it's not asking you a future or predicting question. So it's really important to analyze and pay close attention to what the question is asking you. Okay, so speaking of factual questions, I want to take a look at your factual question independent practice. It's called Canyon Hike. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through this passage entirely. I just want to kind of go over my thinking as I read and completed this passage, and then clarify any questions you might have had. So I, again, went ahead and did this passage on my own, and I always start by writing the mnemonic on the side. This helps to remind me of the steps, and it also helps to remind me that I can move through these steps freely and use whatever step I need to as reading or answering my questions. So I read my title, I skimmed my passage, and then I came down to my questions. So I underlined my keywords, and then I coded my questions. Most of these were pretty straightforward. Where is Ricardo? Factual. What does he have in his back pocket? Factual. Now this one I kind of got a little hung up on number 3. The Chaco River is. That word is kind of made me pause and go, is it asking me for a fact? So what I did to clarify was I went ahead and I snuck down here and I just skimmed over the answer choices. And once I read the answer choices, I was like, oh, it's just asking me to basically regurgitate a fact from up top. It's asking me to identify something that the passage is telling me. So it's definitely a factual question. And then number 4. Number 4 kind of gave me pause as well because it said Ricardo's friends would laugh if, and that word if kind of threw me for a loop. So after I snuck down here again and read my answer choices, I realized, oh, it's just asking me like, why would Ricardo's friends laugh? Or Ricardo's friends would laugh because. So it's definitely a factual question. And then this one was really easy. What is the temperature? Factual, it's going to be right there in the passage. So these are the clues I underlined. Hopefully you underlined the same clues to help you answer the questions. So after I found the clues and I explored supporting details, I returned to my questions. And these were the answers that I came up with. Where is Ricardo? On the way to the bottom of a canyon. And I knew it was A because this very first sentence, it had bottom of the canyon was still a long way down. And then here it said downward trek. And then here it says hiking all alone down to the Chaco River. So I knew he was on his way to the bottom. I was tempted to choose close to the bottom, but if you remember that very first sentence, it said the bottom was still a long way down. You can't be a long way down and close at the same time. So the best answer here was A, on the way to the bottom of a canyon. Number 2, what does he have in his back pocket? That was easy. That was in the second sentence. And the answer is D, sunscreen. I found that one right there. Number 3, the Chaco River is. Now this is where I had to go back and explore supporting details a couple of times. So I went back up and I found Chaco River right here. I found those 2 words. And it said maybe hiking all alone down to the Chaco River with only the use of one arm wasn't the smartest thing in the world. So I was able to determine that the Chaco River is D, where Ricardo is going. I was tempted to pick B at the top of the canyon because it mentioned the canyon so many times. But remember, he's going down. So here we had bottom, downward, and then we head down to the Chaco River. So and you think about where a river is located, rivers typically are at the bottom of something, right? So that's why I picked D, where Ricardo is going. Number 4, Ricardo's friends would laugh if. That one was easy. It said word for word, chickened out right here. And then number 5, what is the temperature? It said right here in the upper 80s. So that answer was easy, C, in the 80s. So hopefully that helped to clarify any questions that you guys had about any factual questions associated with this passage. Again, this one was pretty easy, not the most interesting passage, but my point here with this was to get you guys familiar with answering factual questions and finding the clues associated with those questions. So now what I want to do is move into big picture questions. So when someone says, hey, think about the big picture, what does that even mean? I find myself saying that to my daughter Maddie all the time because she's so detail oriented. She'll sometimes miss the bigger picture. So I'll be like, Maddie, focus on the big picture here. So what does that mean to focus on the big picture? Well, the big picture is associated with big ideas. You have to think big. As a reader, you kind of have to take your lens or your focus and you have to zoom out. You have to think big about the story. So whenever I think about big picture questions, I always think of this picture. I took this picture when we were visiting Colorado. We went to Garden of the Gods in Colorado Springs. And for me, this is just the epitome of a big picture. Because if you were to focus in on only one mountain or these bushes, this hill, or just even the trucks down here, you would miss kind of this beauty of this whole big picture. So again, big picture questions make you as the reader take that lens and you have to zoom out and you have to think big. So when reading, big picture questions relate to the main idea or big ideas within a passage. So make sure you get these in your guided notes. So big picture questions make you think and they make you seek. You have to find the answer to your question. They're not going to jump out at you. You're going to have to figure out the answer to your question by collecting as many clues as possible. So again, big picture questions usually are related to the main idea or big ideas within a passage. So you have to think big overarching components, big overarching ideas within a passage. So our keywords, we have 8 keywords associated with big picture questions. And those keywords are main idea, purpose, summary, setting, message, theme, mood, and tone. These literary terms are probably very familiar to you. All of these terms require you to think big. So yes, the details do contribute to the main idea. Details do contribute to the theme, but when you think about these terms, they require you to think big. Almost as a reader, you're looking down and looking at the passage as a whole. You're not focusing on just little small details. You've got to think big when you think about the tone. You've got to think big when you're thinking about a summary. So please make sure you have all of these in your guided notes. These go in that open section that says big picture question keywords. Please make sure you have all 8 of these listed right here. So let's look at some examples of big picture questions. So this first example, what is the main idea of paragraph 3? So our keywords in this question would be main idea and then paragraph 3. And it's really important that we get that 3 in there because the main idea is specific to paragraph 3. So this is a big picture question because remember, main idea is associated with big picture and it requires you to think big. So we would code this question with a B. Now some of you might say, wait, you have a what here? Yes, we do, but remember, factual questions aren't always who, what, where, when, why or how questions. In this instance, the what is associated with the main idea. It's saying, what is the main idea? So it is definitely a big picture question. Next example, what is the author's message? My keywords here would be author's message. And I would code this with a B because remember, message is one of our keywords for big picture questions. My next example, what is the theme of this passage? So I would underline theme as a keyword, and then if you'd like to underline passage, you could as well. And again, this is a big picture question because it has the keyword theme. What is the author's purpose for writing this article? So our keywords, author's purpose. Purpose is a big picture keyword, so I underline that. What is the mood of paragraph 4? Keywords mood, paragraph 4. And again, really important to get that 4 in there because the mood, it's specifically asking about paragraph 4. Mood, big picture, code it with a B. Last example, which of the following statements best summarizes the 5th paragraph? My keywords here would be summarizes, and then of course 5th paragraph. Again, really important to get that 5th in there because it's specifically asking for a summary of the 5th paragraph. Summarizes is a way of saying what is a summary, so we would code that with a B. B for big picture. So again, our keywords, main idea, purpose, summary, setting, message, theme, mood, and tone. So I'm going to quickly touch on each of these terms. If there's a term in here that you know, say for example, you often get mood and tone confused, I would recommend jotting down in your guided notes the quick example or the quick definition that I have associated with each of these terms. So in your guided notes, under this section right here, so you've got your main idea, summary, setting, you have all of those listed here. If, for example, like I said, mood and tone, you often get confused. Next to mood, I would jot down the definition or the meaning. Next to tone, again, I would jot down either the example I give or the definition next to it. If you need help remembering what those are, it's definitely not a requirement. This is kind of taking some ownership over your learning. If those are things you need help with, definitely jot them down in your guided notes. I'm not going to take a huge dive into each of these. Again, these are all terms that you've been working with for many, many years. You're very familiar with most of them, so I'm just going to do a brief overview of each because we definitely will be encountering some questions with these in just a few minutes. So main idea, we've been working with main idea since like 2nd grade. We know that the main idea is the big idea. It can be within a paragraph or it can be within an entire passage. Those of you who have worked with the paraphrasing strategy are experts at identifying the main idea, and you know that you have some questions that help you with the main idea. So for example, if you were trying to find the topic, the topic is related to the main idea. So you would ask yourself, what is this paragraph about? Now, remember how we said not to skip the title? Well, that's because often the topic is found in the title. So if we ask ourselves, what is this paragraph about? Let's pretend it's about dogs. So dogs is our topic. So we would say, what does this tell us about our topic? This is helping us find the main idea. So we would say, what is this telling us about dogs? That is a guiding question to help us identify our main idea. So those of you who are familiar with paraphrasing, please make sure you are using those questions when you encounter a main idea, big picture question. Next, author's purpose. Purpose is the reason for writing a passage. So authors have 3 purpose types or 3 types of purpose: persuade, inform, entertain. So when an author writes to persuade, the purpose is to convince you of something. So maybe they want to convince you to buy something, to agree with something, or to do something. Persuasion could also be convincing you not to do something. So when I think of not doing something, I always think of those anti-smoking commercials, the ones that show really graphic things that happen when people either get like lung cancer or throat cancer. So they're trying to persuade you not to smoke. Persuasion, like I said, could also be convincing. So I live right outside of Washington, D.C., so we always have politicians on TV trying to persuade us to vote for them. So to persuade would be to convince, or you to do something, think something, buy something, or to convince you not to do something, think something, buy something. Also, inform is another purpose. When you inform, you give information or you educate. An example of that right now would be the news. The news is informing us or educating us about COVID-19. The news is giving us the most up-to-date information related to the coronavirus. So it's informing us, it's equipping us with information, it's educating us. Last purpose would be to entertain. So to give us something to read for enjoyment. So the book I am currently reading for enjoyment is called Knockout by K.A. Holt. Definitely recommend this book. It is the second book in a series. The first book is called House Arrest. Definitely recommend House Arrest if you are looking for a new independent book. So again, 3 purposes would be persuade, inform, entertain. PIE, P-I-E. Summary. So we know a summary is a short statement that tells about the most important information in a passage. So yes, it takes all those details and it takes the most important ones and it takes them and puts them in a concise statement about the entire passage. So an example here we have is this story is about the time we lost my little sister at the grocery store. So it's a short, concise statement about the most important information in a passage. If this is one that you think you need to write in your guided notes, make sure you pause, transfer this to your guided notes, and come back when you're ready. Setting. We know the setting is the time and the place in a story. So those of you who have read Skeleton Creek, you know the setting is Skeleton Creek, Oregon, Oregon being the state. And as far as the time, we would say present day. So other examples of time could be past, being like World War II, the 1920s, but present day would be the time of Skeleton Creek. So if you can think of examples in either short stories that you've read or maybe hopefully you are reading an independent book, you can think of the setting within your text. Next, message. So the message is the author's communication to you as the reader. It's what the author wants you to take away. It's what he or she wants you to know or to understand. So an example could be think before you speak. I'm sure someone has said that to you at one point in your life. So the message the author is conveying could be, hey, the author wants you to think before you speak. That's an example of a message. So next term, theme. So theme and message are sometimes used interchangeably. The theme is the author's message, and it's usually related to life. So it can be related to life, to people, to society. It's something the author wants you to walk away understanding. So an example of a theme would be better safe than sorry. And that's actually been the theme in my house for the last couple of weeks. The other day I went to the grocery store and my daughter begged me to go if she could go with me. She basically begged to get in the car and go to the grocery store. Never before has this happened. And my husband was like, absolutely not. It's better to be safe than sorry. So my husband did not want her to go to the grocery store because of the coronavirus right now. So I gloved up, put on my mask, and I went by myself. But again, the theme is the message about life. It's what the author wants you to walk away understanding about life, about people, about society. Mood. So mood and tone are different. Some people use these terms interchangeably, but they are not the same thing. To clarify, mood is the feeling and the emotion associated with you as the reader. So it's what you are experiencing while reading. I like to think of mood and me. The alliteration is mood, me being the reader. So again, Skeleton Creek, those of you who have read this book, you kind of get an idea of the mood of the book just by looking at the cover. Also, the title kind of sets the mood, not the tone, the mood, sets the mood of the book. We also know that the author's word choice contributes to the mood. The book's setting can contribute to the mood. And I'll give you an example of how author's word choice can contribute to the mood. So I'm reading the first page of Skeleton Creek, and it starts by saying, "There was a moment not long ago when I thought, this is it, I'm dead. I think about that night all the time, and I feel the same fear I felt then. It happened 2 weeks ago, but 14 days and nights of remembering have left me more afraid and uncertain than ever, which I guess means it isn't over yet. So right away, the author sets this like ominous, dark, kind of foreboding mood right on that first page. So again, word choice, setting can influence the mood. Mood is me being the reader. It's the feeling, it's the emotion that you experience while reading. Tone. So tone is the author's attitude toward a subject. So that tone, that underlying tone, that attitude can be directly stated, meaning the author will blatantly flat out tell you, or it can be implied. So it's kind of hinted. The authors sometimes will imply things like almost like I'm hinting at my opinion towards something. I'm hinting at my attitude, but I'm not going to directly tell you. So again, the tone can be stated directly or it can be hinted or implied. It's basically the author's attitude towards something, towards a subject, usually toward what you're reading about. So mood is me, tone is the author's attitude. Okay, so anything here that you need to put in your guided notes, if you need to kind of rewind and make sure you transfer that in your guided notes, please make sure you take the time to do that. Again, message, theme, mood, and tone are usually the ones students get hung up on. So if you need to write down anything from the screen, again, please take the time to do that. All right. Last thing I'm going to mention before we jump into our actual modeling passage. Please remember when you're choosing your answer needs to be directly related to the information in the passage, and it needs to answer your question. A lot of times we'll read our answer choices and there will be that one outlier answer that is so off the wall, you're tempted to choose it because you're like, wait, did I miss something? Is that supposed to be the right answer? Evaluate your questions, evaluate your answers, make sure you're finding as many clues as possible. Select the answer related to the passage and the answer that best answers the question. Keep that in mind as we move into our independent practice. Okay, so just to recap before I jump into my model passage, please remember your possible factual question keywords: who, what, where, when, why, and how. And then your big picture question keywords. Remember, big picture questions require you to think big. You're taking that reader lens and you're zooming out and you're thinking big. You're thinking these big overarching components of what you're reading. So big picture questions. The keywords are main idea, purpose, summary, setting, message, theme, mood, and tone. Okay. So you have this example passage in your Google Drive. Feel free to follow along with me on the screen, or if you prefer to pull it up in your Google Drive, that's completely up to you. So I'm going to show you how I apply the inference strategy to this passage. And remember, we're identifying both factual and big picture questions. So this is where those guided notes come in handy because you have factual question keywords and you have your big picture question keywords. So the first thing I always do whenever I apply a strategy is I write the strategy mnemonic down the side. Again, it helps me remember the steps, and it helps to remind me that I can move fluidly through these steps as needed. All right, I interact with the passage and the questions. So I'm going to read my title, skim my passage, read my questions. Secret message. Secret messages, easy, certain kinds of people, differences, starter club, felt green marker, supply store, girls restroom, advertisement, little green nothing, ability was unusual, 3 weeks, club, vice president, treasurer, and money. All right. So I'm not really sure exactly what this passage is about. It seems a bit odd. I know it has to do with secret messages and a club of some sort. There were some strange words I saw in here, like lime green felt marker. Not really sure exactly what this is about. Again, secret messages and club, that's what I was picking up on. So now I'm going to come down here and I am going to read my questions and I'm going to jump right into the end step. I'm going to note what I know. So number one, this story is mostly about. So my keywords here would be story and then mostly about. Now, if you think about this question is requiring me to think big. This question is basically asking for a summary. So what is this mostly about? So this is a big picture question and I code it with a B. Please remember these lines are for you to code your question types. This is not where you put your answer. Please make sure you circle or highlight, somehow notate your answer when you're doing your independent practice. Number 2, what happened to Anita's first poster? So my keywords here, what happened Anita's first poster? It's important I get the word first underlined because it's specifically asking me about the first poster. So this is a factual question. I coded on the line with an F. Number 3, the purpose of this story is probably, I've got purpose, I could probably underline story. So purpose, story. And I know author's purpose is associated with a big picture question, so I code it with a B. Number 4, a new title for this passage could be new title, passage are my keywords. Now remember, titles are related to the topic, and topic is related to the main idea. This question is a big picture question. It's asking me to think big. When you give something a title, you're thinking holistically about the passage. I'm thinking big. So I'm coding it with a B for big picture. Number 5, how many people joined Anita's club? How many people joined Anita's club? Yep, just underline the whole question and that's totally okay. This is a factual question. My answer is going to be right there in the passage. So when I go back and I'm going to look really quick again at my questions so I can be remembering, all right, these are my keywords in my questions. This is going to help my brain hone into those clue words in the passage. So the story mostly about what happened to her first poster, the purpose, so why is the author writing this, a new title, so basically it's asking me for a topic, main idea, and how many people joined Anita's club. All right, so now I am going to go up and I'm going to find the clues and I'm going to explore supporting details. Secret message. Secret messages are easy for certain kinds of people. These people can see differences between colors that look the same to everybody else. So I'm going to underline secret message because that's there and it's in the first sentence, title and first sentence. That is how Anita started her club at Truman Middle School in Danbury, Connecticut. Okay, I'm going to underline Anita's club because I have a feeling that's going to help me answer my questions. Next paragraph. She bought a lime green felt marker and some lime green cardboard at an office supply store. She wrote an advertisement on it. She taped it to the inside of the door of the girls' restroom. I remember so she's basically writing cardboard. I know that's like her sign. I know I had a question about first poster, so I'm going to underline that. She wrote an advertisement on it. You wrote an advertisement on the sign. The girls' bathroom. Okay, the advertisement said, if you can read this, you can join my club. It ended with her cell phone number. I'm going to go ahead and underline this. That might be important to answer a question. To most of the girls who looked at it, Anita's message was just a lime green nothing. It stayed on the door for 4 days. Then the janitor took it down and threw it in the trash. Okay, here we go. Here's an answer to one of my questions. So this advertisement I underlined up here, the janitor threw it in the trash. Anita knew that would happen. She had another poster ready. Anita knew that her ability was very unusual. I'm going to underline that. That's a clue. We had that up here in the first paragraph too. Talking about secret messages, certain kinds of people, and that ability is unusual. She was also very patient. After 3 weeks, only 2 girls had joined her club. Here is an answer. Nevertheless, 3 girls with a special power can do a lot. They kept their club a secret. Again, we have secret and club. They didn't want anybody else to know what they were doing. At their first meeting, they elected Anita president, Trudy was vice president, and Donna was treasurer. They needed a treasurer because Anita planned to make a lot of money. Okay, so I found my clues and I explored supporting details. So now I'm going to return to my questions. So this first question says, this story is mostly about. Is it mostly about Truman Middle School and school activities? No. The way people see different colors and use them? It did mention seeing colors, but I don't think it talked about people using them. I'm going to leave that one. Let's see if there's a better answer. Some girls with an unusual ability who formed a club. I think that's a better answer. D, a fairly common ability in middle school students. Yeah, definitely not. So my answer here is C. This story is mostly about some girls with an unusual ability who formed a club. And we know that because we collected clues up here that talked about secret messages, her club, her ability, joined a club, secret club. It was very repetitive, so it's definitely about girls who formed a secret club. Okay, number 2. What happened to Anita's first poster? That was factual, and we remember it told us right here the janitor took it down and threw it in the trash. So our best answer, it was ignored. No. It was thrown out. Yes. It was used for a new sign. No. It was hidden from the teachers at the school. No. Our best answer is B. Number 3, the purpose of this story is probably, so why did the author write this? Did the author write this to inform the reader? I think so. I think the author was basically telling us how Anita started her club. But let me read the rest of my answer choices. To thrill the reader? No, this passage was not exciting at all. To frighten the reader? No, it wasn't scary. To show the danger of secret messages? It didn't even talk about danger. So our answer here is definitely A, to inform the reader. Number 4, a new title for this passage could be, so if I think about what this passage was mainly about, what title would I give it? Differences among girls? I don't think so. Club recruiting practices? Well, it didn't talk about different types of clubs and different ways to recruit. It only talked about the one way Anita recruited with her poster. So that's not the answer. C, reading bathroom signs. I mean, it talked about reading bathroom signs, but I wouldn't make that the title. Starting a secret club. Yes, that would definitely be a fitting title. Starting a secret club. And we know that relates because, again, it talked about club and talked about secrets, and that was very repetitive. Join my club, secret club. Number 5, how many people joined Anita's club? Now, it's important that we focus on the word joined here because it's asking us how many people joined the club, not how many people were in the club. So if you come up here, it says after 3 weeks, only 2 girls had joined her club. So my answer here, not 3, it is 2, definitely not 1, not none. The answer is not 3 because it didn't say how many people are in Anita's club total. It asked how many people joined her club. So pay close attention to those keywords within your questions. Okay, so that is how I would complete a passage when identifying both big picture and factual questions. You are going to do the same thing with your independent practice passage. You have this in your Google Drive. I will go ahead and pull this up to show it to you. Looks just like this. So your independent practice, you have your instructions here in blue. Your instructions say, apply the inference strategy to the passage below. Code the questions on the provided blank beside each question number. Again, our provided blanks are these guys right here. This is where you are coding either B for big picture or F for factual. So code the questions on the provided blank beside each question number. Underline, highlight at least 5 clues in the passage before answering the questions. Now I'm asking for 5 clues because you have 5 questions. There is at least 1 clue associated to each question. It is absolutely okay to underline more than 5 clues, but you will definitely have at least 5. 1 clue in the passage associated with each question. And then last step, it says return to the questions and highlight your answers. So however you're notating your answers, highlighting, bolding, underlining, whatever you're doing or whatever your teacher asked you to do to notate those answers. So if you get stuck or you have any questions as far as how to complete this passage, go ahead and replay the secret message model that I just did, and hopefully that will clarify for you guys. So again, independent practice, it's passage number 2. It's called Sacrifice. This is on your own. This is your independent practice. Use your guided notes. Remember, you're working with both big picture keywords and factual keywords. Okay, so speaking of those keywords, just to recap for today, so we talked about big picture questions, and today we learned the keywords. The keywords associated with big picture questions are main idea, purpose, summary, setting, message, theme, mood, and tone. And remember, big picture questions require you to think big as a reader. Okay, the next time we're together, we are going to talk about predicting questions. So again, please make sure you are using those guided notes, and I will see you next time. Thank you.